Before we begin, listen carefully. If you ever work a front desk after midnight and a room calls down that is not on your map, do not correct the guest. Do not say the room is impossible. And do not go looking for the door. Welcome back to Midnight Echo Radio. I'm Seraphine Corven. Tonight's story begins at a roadside motel with 32 rooms, one night clerk, and a phone line that should have been disconnected years ago. Settle in, and if the desk bell rings while you're listening, leave it alone. The Sandpiper Motor Lodge sat off exit 18, where the highway bent around a stand of dead pines and forgot to become anything else. It had 2 floors, an ice machine that coughed more than it worked, and a swimming pool covered with a tarp so old the rainwater on top had become its own black pond. Every room faced the parking lot. Every door had a brass number screwed into peeling blue paint. The first floor ran 101 through 116. The second floor ran 201 through 213, then 215 through 232. There was no 214. Mara knew this because guests complained about it. Not often. Mostly truckers with receipts in their glove boxes and couples too tired to be polite. They would stop at the office window, stare at their key tag, then at the building, then back at Mara. "You skipped a room." She would give the practiced smile. "Owner superstition. We don't rent a 214. That was what Don had told her to say during training. Don owned the Sandpiper, though he spent most nights asleep in the small apartment behind the laundry room. He had one rule for the night shift. Don't leave the desk unless the building is burning. People can wait for towels. People can wait for batteries. People can wait for God if they have to. You stay where the cameras can see you. Mara had taken the job because it was quiet and paid cash every Friday. From 11 at night until 7 in the morning, she checked in the last tired drivers, brewed coffee that tasted like wet paper, and watched black and white camera feeds from angles no one had updated since the 90s. At 2:14 a.m. on her 9th night, the switchboard rang. Not the front desk phone. The switchboard. It was a beige box mounted under the counter, with little red lights for each occupied room. Most of it did not work anymore. Guests called the office from their cell phones. The room phones were props with dial tones, kept only because taking them out would leave holes in the walls. But that night, one red light blinked. 2:14. Mara stared at it until the second ring, then the third. She picked up the receiver. "Front desk." For a moment, there was only air on the line. Not silence. Air, close and damp, like someone breathing with a towel over the mouthpiece. Then a man said, "The television is on again." His voice was mild, irritated but contained. Mara looked at the board. The red bulb beside 214 glowed steadily now. "I'm sorry?" "The television," he said. "It keeps turning itself on. I've unplugged it twice." Mara's eyes moved to the room chart taped beneath the counter. 213 was vacant. 215 was occupied by a woman traveling with 2 cats. There was no box between them. "What room are you in, sir?" A pause. "You called me." "I'm sorry, I just need to confirm." His breathing grew slightly louder. 214. The little office seemed to narrow around the sound. Mara almost laughed. People were strange after midnight. People drank, wandered, forgot where they were. Maybe someone in 215 had dialed wrong. or the switchboard had finally decided to die in a theatrical way. "I'll make a note for maintenance in the morning," she said. "If the television turns on again, you can unplug it from the wall and leave it that way." I did. "Then I'm not sure what else I can do tonight." The man was quiet long enough that she thought he had hung up. Then he said, very softly, "It is showing the parking lot." Mara looked up at the camera monitors. On screen 2, the second-floor walkway sat empty beneath buzzing lights. 213. A slice of blank wall. 215. No door. On screen 1, the parking lot held 6 cars and a wet shine from recent rain. "What do you mean?" she asked. "The television is showing you at the desk," he said. "You are holding the phone with your left hand. You have a pen in your right hand. You are not writing." Mara put the pen down. The line clicked dead. She did not wake Dawn. That was the first mistake. She told herself the cameras were visible from the office window. She told herself someone was watching from a car. She told herself anything except the obvious thing, because the obvious thing had no place to sit in her mind. At 2:14 the next morning, the board rang again. 2:14. Mara let it ring 5 times. 6. 7. And the 8th she picked up. "Front desk." This time, the voice was a woman's, older, hoarse with sleep. "I need towels." Mara closed her eyes. "What room?" "You know what room." Behind the woman, something dripped steadily into water. Mara looked toward the laundry door. Dawn's warning sat in her head like a hand on her shoulder. "Stay where the cameras can see you." "Towels are available in the office," Mara said. "You can come down and get them." The woman breathed out a small, humorless laugh. "We can't open it from this side." Mara did not answer. "You have the key," the woman said. "I don't. It's in the drawer." Mara looked at the key drawer, because people obey too easily when fear gives specific instructions. The sandpiper used plastic key cards for actual rooms, but beneath the drawer was an older tray of brass keys for storage closets, vending panels, the pool gate, the roof hatch. There, on a tag that had not been there the night before, was a tarnished brass key. 214. Mara shut the drawer so hard the register tape jumped. The woman on the phone whispered, "Please, it's getting cold in here." Then the line died. In the morning, Mara told Dawn everything. He listened without interrupting. That frightened her more than disbelief would have. When she finished, he took the brass key from the drawer, held it between thumb and forefinger, and looked very old. "If it rings again," he said, "don't answer." "What is it?" "A room." "There is no room." "Not now." Dawn put the key in a coffee mug, filled it with bleach from the laundry shelf, and set it in the office sink. "The previous owner closed it," he said. "Closed is not the same as gone." Mara waited for more, but Dawn had the look of a man who had spent years placing boards over a hole and calling the floor repaired. That afternoon, Mara walked the second-floor walkway in daylight. She started at 2:01 and moved slowly, palm sliding over chipped rail. 200. 212. 212. 213. Then, blank wall. The wall between 213 and 215 was wider than it should have been. Not by much, maybe 3 feet, maybe 4. Enough for a broom closet. Enough for a door that had been covered. She pressed her ear against the paint. From inside the wall, very far away, a phone rang once. Mara quit that evening. She meant to. She drove home, slept poorly, woke with a headache and a voicemail from Don. He sounded embarrassed. "Mara, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have put all that on you. Come in tonight and I'll pay you for the week, plus the shift. You don't have to stay. Just come get your money." She knew better than to go back. But rent has a way of making terror negotiable. At 11:03 p.m., she was behind the desk again. Don was not there. His apartment door behind the laundry room stood open. The bed was made. His truck was in the lot. On the counter sat an envelope with Mara's name on it, stuffed with cash, and a note written in Don's cramped hand. "If the board rings, do not answer. If someone knocks from inside the office wall, do not open the drawer. If I call from 214, hang up." At 2:14 a.m., every red light on the switchboard came on. 101 through 116, 201 through 213, 215 through 232, and one extra light in the blank space between them, 214. The front desk phone rang. Mara did not move. The room phones began ringing next, each one shrill and thin behind its own motel door. On the camera monitors, guests stirred. Lights came on. A man in 109 opened his door, confused and shirtless, holding the receiver he had just torn from the wall. Then the office wall knocked. 3 gentle taps. Mara backed away from the desk. The knock came again. Not from a hallway, from inside the wall behind the key drawer. The switchboard stopped ringing. One light remained. 214. The receiver lifted itself from the cradle and swung on its cord. Don's voice came through the little speaker, thin and wet. "Mara." She put both hands over her ears. "Mara, I'm at the door." The drawer slid open 1 inch. The smell that came out was old rain, cold carpet, and air that had been breathed too many times. Inside the drawer, the brass key lay clean and dry. Don whispered, "It only opens from the outside." On the monitors, the blank wall between 213 and 215 changed, not quickly. The paint darkened in a vertical seam. A line appeared where no line had been. Then a brass number formed out of shadow and shine. 214. Guests began stepping out of their rooms, not awake, not fully. They came in bare feet, holding towels, purses, children, pillows, whatever they had grabbed first. One by one, they turned toward the new door. Mara ran. She left the office, left the cash, left the receiver swinging, and Don calling her name from a place that had learned how to imitate distance. She made it to her car before the door opened. She did not look back until the engine turned over. In the rearview mirror, the second-floor walkway was crowded. Every guest stood facing room 214. The door was open just wide enough for darkness to show. Something inside was handing out keys. Mara drove until the Sandpiper sign disappeared behind the pines. By sunrise, she had convinced herself there would be police, news, missing people, a fire, something with paperwork. There was nothing. The Sandpiper Motor Lodge closed 2 weeks later for renovations and reopened under a different name. New paint, new sign, online booking, contactless check-in. The website lists 33 rooms. If you count them in the photos, you will only find 32 doors. And if you call after midnight, sometimes the automated system offers one more option. For room service, press 1. For the front desk, press 0. For room 214, stay on the line. Someone will let you in.